And welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit, here back with the second part of a two-part series dubbed Word Association. Now, if you tuned into last week's episode, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you didn't happen to catch that one, I will get into it momentarily. Before we do so, though, a big shout out, as I say, week in and week out to both Stadium Scene and The Cover. Both those networks continuing to do tremendous things for not only myself here at the Daily Dribble and the work I'm doing, but also a whole host of other content creators around Australia, New Zealand, the US, and Canada. So very, very appreciative of all their continued hard work and support of us here. Okay, guys, as I said, so last week it was part one of a two-part series, Word Association, essentially going through and giving one word to all 15 teams last week it was the Eastern Conference. Today it'll be the Western Conference. That just kind of sums up their efforts so far into the season. Now, if you didn't get a chance to check out last week's show, I do implore you to do so. It can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Be sure to check it out, subscribe, like, do all that great stuff. Whilst you're at it, you may as well subscribe to all of our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok, so as to ensure you never miss any news from both the NBA and the NBL. Okay, as I said, I'm going to go through alphabetically the Western Conference. I'm going to give him one word to every team on their performances thus far. Starting first and foremost with the Dallas Mavericks. Now, the word I've given to them is defense. They've been a fascinating team so far. They currently sit third in the Western Conference with a 13-8 record. They're looking kind of, I think, sneaky underrated. They're probably not quite getting the credit they deserve. Luka is a natural-born killer and just continuing to put himself in MVP conversation. Likewise, Kyrie Irving is incredible when fit and firing, damn near unstoppable. Again, granted, he's had a couple of injury troubles and, no more so than the other day going down late in their matchup. But they're giving up 118 points per game. Now, for a team that honestly wants to contend, they need to shore things up on this side of the floor. If they can, I think look out. I think the acquisitions of Grant Williams, huge. Derek Lively's been an absolute gem. Tim Hardaway's continuing to fire off the bench alongside Seth Curry there. There's enough to like about them. But the big thing I think they need to hone in on a little bit more is defense. Especially if Kyrie has gone down. If they are reliant on Luka as that sole offensive force, they're not going to be able to run with 120, 130 points per night. They're going to have to clamp up a little bit more on the defensive end. And then, in my eyes, I think they could be a real sneaky dark horse. We'll go ahead to Denver. Now, the word that I've given the reigning champs is building. As I said, the reigning champs, they've had a heap of injuries to start their season. But now, in particular, that Jamal Murray is back, they'll be looking to build some greater consistency. And to be honest, I think they're in really good shape, arguably pole position to duplicate their efforts from last season. Jokic, he's had a couple of ordinary games, especially on the shooting front, but we all know what he's capable of. A dual MVP, reigning champs, alongside Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, KCP, Michael Porter Jr., sorry, I forgot about him as well. They are really, really potent on both ends of the floor. So the word I've got for them is building. Despite a slow start, what are we? We're 20-odd games, 25 games into the season for a lot of these teams. I would be really starting to take close attention to what the Nuggets are doing. As I said, especially with full health now, not a team you want to come up against. The Golden State Warriors. Now, their season hasn't gone quite according to plan as of yet. Currently sitting 11th in the Western Conference with a 10-12 record. They've been struggling as of late. And thus, the word that I've given them is composure. Now, it's something we're not used to seeing with this team, but there's been a real lack of composure, especially over the last week or so. Twice they blew 20-point leads to both the Clippers and the Kings, which is just not something we've been accustomed to with this team. They ended up giving away a game yesterday against OKC. They lost that one in overtime. Had a 3-point lead with 8 seconds to go before Draymond gave away 2 fouls in a matter of, I think it was 2 seconds. Sent Chet Holmgren to the free throw line for 3 free throws. He tied it up from there. And then the Thunder were able to outlast the Warriors there in OT. But composure, that is the big key. There's so much talent there. Andrew Wiggins, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Chris Paul, even Kevon Looney in his own right. They should be good. They should be a lot better than what they're displaying at the moment. Just composure, someone to stand up. We know they've got the guys to do it. Steph Curry is arguably one of the greatest closers in NBA history. There's composure in their ranks. They just need to start demonstrating it. And their record, as I said, what are we, 10-12? They had the ability to close out games. They should have a positive record of possibly, 13-9, 14-8, possibly. They're just lacking that finishing touch at the moment. With the players they've got, I wouldn't be surprised to see their fortunes turn around very quickly. But at the moment, they're just they're lacking that finishing touch. The Houston Rockets currently sit in the Western Conference 8th with a 10-9 record. They've won their last 2 on the bounce and knocked off some pretty. They've taken some big scalps, no more so than Denver. But the word I've given them is plucky. Now, by adding some experience, namely Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet, they look like a completely different team. And I think by being a better team, it's promoting more growth in those key youngsters that they have, namely Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith. They've got some exciting young players within their ranks. And for the first time in quite a few years, they're actually exciting to watch. I actually enjoy watching them, partly out of excitement, partly out of pure hate factor for Dylan Brooks, as I'm sure a lot of people are on board with as well. But they are exciting to watch, and they play a really fun brand of basketball. And the fact that some of the scalps they're taking, as I said, currently 8th, 10-9, is it something they can sustain? I don't think so. You look at teams below them, namely the Clippers, Pelicans, and Warriors. You could see all of them jumping over the Rockets, but across 20 games, they've been very, very fun to watch and should be very proud of their efforts thus far. The LA Clippers, the word I've given them is conundrum. Now, we spoke about it, namely when the James Harden trade went down a couple of months ago, that the issue this team was going to have was sharing the rock. Now, they've got 4 very, very ball-dominant players. Russell Westbrook since slid to the bench. But who's their guy? Who is actually handling the rock? When you've got Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook there off the bench, there is a lot of ball-hungry players amongst them. And I don't know where they're at the minute. I don't know if they can all coexist together in a successful unit at the minute from what we've seen so far. 9th with an 11-10 record. That's after winning 3 of their last 3 games. But they've looked shaky. And I know I've spoke about it with the Bucks. There's always an ironing out period. Potentially we're seeing things start to click. But I think one of these guys needs to step up and be the guy. At the moment, they're all just kind of happy playing their own kind of roles, just doing their team bit. We need one guy to stand up and really lead them, I think. And at the moment, they're just lacking that identity. So they've got a real conundrum on their hands. Thankfully, they've got plenty of time, another 65 odd games to work things out. But I'd be a little bit concerned as a Clippers fan at the moment. The Lakers. Now, they are just about to tip off in the NBA in-season tournament final against the Pacers as we speak. About to tip off in 5 minutes as I record this one. So I'm going to try and rattle through this episode pretty quickly. The Lakers sit 5th with a 14-9 record. They've won their past 3 games, 7-3 in their last 10. The word I've got is reliant. Now, LeBron James, just about to turn 39 years of age, the oldest player within the league, is still arguably one of the best players in the league. The difference when he's on the court and when he's not, what he's doing on a production level is second to none. We have never seen a player at this age perform to the level he is. He is truly a phenomenon, continuing to lead this team. They've looked better. I'm so thankful they've decided to scrap that 30-minute limit that they were going to have on him going into the season, because without him on the court for the minutes he has been, I think it could be a considerably different looking record at this stage. But 5th, 14-9, things are looking bright there in LA for the Lakers at the moment. If they can get the win today, that would be a nice little achievement there to be the inaugural NBA in-season champions. But really happy with where they're poised at the minute for the regular season. So they are still very reliant on LeBron James, but he is continuing to perform at an elite level. To be honest, it's unbelievable. And it's something, I've spoken a little bit about, players like LeBron, like Steph, like KD, these Chris Paul, these players who are a little bit older, who are in the back nine of their career, really appreciating them whilst we still have them in the league. I think each time we see LeBron now, it's just something we need to, whether you're a LeBron fan or not, something you need to appreciate for how special this is. Let's push ahead to Memphis. The word I've given them is finished. They currently sit 13th with a 6-15 record. They're, what are we, 21? We're only a handful of games away from seeing the return of Ja Morant. But to be honest, I think the damage has been done. You could see a world in which they rattle off a couple of wins. Ja is certainly that level of player to get them there. But I just think the damage has been done early. And it's a shame. They're a team that I've thought would fall below expectations the last probably 3 or 4 years. They've absolutely surpassed and then some what I've expected of them, as well as many other pundits out there. But I feel like this is the year that they regress. I think it's going to be a very, very hard slog back into actual play-in contention, let alone playoff contention. But very excited to see Ja back. He is one of the most must-watch players within the league, so that will certainly bring some excitement to the fans there in Memphis. Minnesota. The word I've given the Timberwolves is flying, and that they are. They currently sit first in the Western Conference with a 17-4 record. They've won their last 6 games on the bounce. And to be honest, just are playing some really, really good basketball. I certainly didn't pick this. They haven't changed their roster, but they just look like a new hungry unit. Anthony Edwards is great. Rudy Gobert's doing it on both ends of the floor. Cat looks more consistent. Mike Conley there as well, chipping in more points than we've seen in the last couple of seasons. They just look really well-rounded at the moment. My eyes, I don't see this probably continuing. To be honest, I don't think they're a title contender, should I say. But they currently sit 3 games ahead of everyone else in the Western Conference. That is absolutely startling because for me, they're not a big market team. They don't gain a lot of headlines. I was very shocked to see them that far ahead. 17-4, that's a tremendous record. As I said, won 6 on the bounce, 9-1 in their last 10. They're 10-1 at home. And it's defense that's doing it for them. They're only conceding 105.2 points per game at the moment, which, if I've got that correct, is the league's best defense at the moment. It really is a testament to them. Whether it'll continue or whether it doesn't matter. They have really come out of the gates hot and should be very proud of their efforts thus far. Timberwolves are flying. The New Orleans Pelicans, I've given the word ascending. Now, they sit 10th in the West at the moment with a 12-11 record. They've struggled quite a little bit with injury troubles through the first, third to quarter of their season. Now that CJ McCollum in particular is back, it just adds such a different dynamic. Dyson Daniels, and love him, Aussie boy, big props to him. Been very high on him going into the league and what he's done since he's come in. Fantastic. He's not a natural scorer, and they've really lacked that element to their game whilst he's been in the starting lineup. With CJ coming back, it just gives them such another dynamic avenue to score. And I could see them, now that they're pretty well all fit and healthy, starting to charge up the standings. They're only a game and a half back of 6th there, which would grant them an automatic playoff spot if things were to end today. But they're knocking on the door. They're only 3 games back of second place OKC there. So they're certainly not that far behind. With a full-strength roster, there is a lot of talent amongst them. I think they could ascend up the rankings pretty quickly there. OKC. The word I've given them is present. Now, I initially had in my notes future. The word I've given them is present. They currently sit second with a 14-7 record in the Western Conference there. Incredible. Only play behind the Timberwolves there. OKC are a team spoken at length about that they're poised for a huge next 5 to 10 years. They've got all the makings of an absolute powerhouse. But what they're doing at the minute as well is they are a legitimate team as it stands. Seen Chet Holmgren come in, the wait was well and truly worth it. If you're an OKC fan, what he's delivering at the moment alongside SGA, alongside Giddey, alongside Williams and Dort, They are super fun to watch. They are super talented. They are super young. They've got a really good defensive rating, 112.5 points per game, a plus 7.2 point differential. They just play young, dynamic basketball, and they don't give up. What they were able to do yesterday against the Warriors really put the foot down in OT against a team that's been the dynasty for the last best part of a decade was a real kind of coming out moment for me as I watched it. As I said 14-7, won 7 of their last 10. They are not just the future; they are the present at the moment, and I think they're probably another year or two away from being genuine contenders. They're going to be a tough out in the playoffs, regardless. Really, really excited about where their future's headed, but should be very excited about their present as well. Moving ahead to the Phoenix Suns, they currently sit 7th with a record of 12-10. They've lost their past 2, 6-4 in their last 10. The word I've given for them is health. They are going to be very dependent on health going into the latter stages of this season. If everyone can be fit and healthy, they're going to be a powerhouse. But if they're not healthy, things could unravel pretty quickly in what is a loaded West. Now, Devin Booker, KD, and Bradley Beal, you don't get too many better big threes than that. That is pretty lights out. Counts for naught if we don't see it together, though. And at this stage, Bradley Beal's really not done a lot. We've not really seen him grace the court to the level we would have liked. So health is everything there in Phoenix. I think the acquisition of Nurkic is underrated. One of the better moves this offseason. He really complements them well, not only with his present interior, but also his ability to shoot the outside ball. But I just don't know where they sit at the minute. In terms of tiers, in terms of talent, they're right in the top tier. But in terms of championship credentials, they're probably in that second to third tier, probably second. And that's just based on health at the moment. You can have all the best players in the world, but it counts for naught if they're not on the court. So here's hoping we get a full look at them very, very soon. But for me, that is the big concern at the moment. The Portland Trailblazers, the word I've given to them is finished. They currently sit 14th with a 6-15 record. Lost their last 3-7 in their last 10. Currently got a minus 6.9 point differential. It's I don't think it's a bad thing that their season's over already. That's okay. They weren't going anywhere. Dealt a cruel blow. Anthony Simons going out early. He's come back to the court in the last week or so. Robert Williams being ruled out for the season. They were never destined for big things this season. Really now I think it's going to just be about nurturing that young talent, in particular Scoot and even Simons to a lesser extent, but Scoot Henderson really ensuring he is a key part of their future moving forward. I think they've actually been, to use that word again that I coined before, plucky. They've shown quite a bit of fight in a lot of these games, namely against the Warriors the other day, the Bucks a couple of weeks prior. They're no rollover, I guess, with Ayton, Brogdon. Loving what Duop Reith's doing there as well. Another Aussie bloke plying his trade in the States. But yeah, they're really not going anywhere at the moment, and that's okay. That's okay. Next year's another year. We knew things were going to take a very big turn once they blew it up and offloaded Dame. So I applaud them for going that route and actually starting afresh. But you just got to be patient. It is going to be a rebuilding process. Rome wasn't built in a day. So yeah, for me, the Portland Trailblazers season is finished. Let's go ahead to the Sacramento Kings, currently 6th with a 12-8 record. The word that I've given them is pace. Now, they're still putting up 116 points per game, but that's well down on the mark that they've had over the last couple of seasons. We've seen them continually have probably the best offense within the league. They are now, pretty far behind the Pacers. What are they? What's that? That's, where are we there? Yeah, 12 points a game behind the Pacers in that regard, with other teams as well filing in behind the Pacers ahead of the Kings. They look best when they're a run and gun team. Fox handling the rock, pushing the pace predominantly. I think they just need to go back to what they were doing before. Forget about defense completely. Not that they play that much of it at the moment, but just continue to embrace that run and gun attitude, track meet, Let's put up $1.50 a night and see who can actually stick with us. They've looked okay. They've looked okay. Nothing world beater. 12-8, as I said. 6-4 in their last 10. Currently a minus point differential of 0.3. But I just think if they continue to play with more pace, as they have been the last couple of seasons, teams can't go with them. Teams cannot go with them. We've seen that over the last couple of years. So just pick up the pace, and I think good things will happen there in Sacramento. We've got 2 to go, should I say. Going ahead to the penultimate team, San Antonio Spurs, I've given the word solo. Now, not only is it a refreshing beverage, it's also what the Spurs are this season. They have some intriguing players who are actually somewhat serviceable. Zach Collins has been tidy. There is talent on there, but for the most part, they're a one-man band. All anyone cares about at the moment is Wemby and what he's doing. He's started his NBA career phenomenally well, averaging 19 points, 10 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 2.5 blocks, and a steal a game. Undoubtedly, he's their future, and that's what they're focused on at the moment, as they should be. But, there's really not a lot happening. They're 3-18. They've lost their last 16 games in a row. They have a minus 12 point differential. Now, there's no clawing your way back from that. They are finished for this season. But all eyes are just on Wemby and what he can do. And so far, a small sample size, it's been very, very impressive. So he's hoping that will continue. Last but not least, the Utah Jazz, they sit 12th with a 7-15 record, 3-7 in their last 10. Therefore, the word that I've given them is flailing. They started well enough. They've started to plummet down the standings now. As I said, 3-7 in their last 10. Injuries to Lauri Markkanen in particular have played their part. A couple of other injuries as well have kind of chopped them down at the knees. But to be honest, it's looking like their season could quickly start to unravel. I wouldn't be surprised to see Memphis jump them. Even Portland could potentially jump them as well. Disappointing given the work they did last season. But I think the Jazz are starting to flail. Guys, there you have it. There wraps up the end or the Western Conference today, the culmination of a 2-part series of word association. Very, very appreciative for all the continued support of the show. Lots of fantastic conversations during the week from not only the NBA, but also the NBL. So certainly appreciate you guys reaching out in that regard. If you have anything you want to talk about, anything ball related, I love talking ball. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, hit me up. We'd love to chat with you guys. Very appreciative of all the continued support of the show. It's only a couple of weeks till Christmas now, so I'm thinking I'll probably do a show next week and then probably have the week off following just for the lead up to Christmas there. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Guys, thank you again for all the support. Have a fantastic week. I'm going to go tune into the NBA in-season tournament final. The Lakers playing the Pacers. He's hoping the boys can get up. LeBron to put the team on his shoulders and add to his trophy cabinet. And I can't wait to discuss everything from the NBA with you next week. Till then, guys, take care.